Okay, let's do the next section, find the right transformer. There are quite a few transformers in FME. I think we're currently got 486 on these training machines. It's about how many ship with FME currently, which is obviously a lot. And so that is a challenge, I think, for new users, is figuring out which of all these transformers do I need to learn, and how do I find the one that I need to do what I want. The good news is you don't have to learn all of them at all. I certainly don't know all of them. What you need to learn is the most common ones that everybody shares, because there's quite a few transformers that are common regardless of the industry or the data type that you're working with, because they just have a very generic purpose. And then you'll probably have to learn some more specialized ones based on your project or use case, industry, the data type you work with, the formats you work with, etc. So then that's just a matter of sort of slowly learning those over time based on your project. But there are some techniques you can use to speed up that process. And I'll go over a few of those right now. One of the easiest ways is to just use Quick Add. This is what I use quite a bit. Oh, actually, before I just demonstrate all of them, what I will do, this lesson, I'll put the link in the chat. This lesson does have an example workspace, which I'll use to illustrate finding a transformer. You don't need to open it. I'm just going to use it to demonstrate. You can check it out if you want. It might be helpful for those of you who work with APIs if you're curious how working with an API works with FME, because this workspace uses an API, but it is not required. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Find the right transformer example is the one that has the example. So this is an example using a API. I think, if I recall correctly, this API might have been down last time I tried it. Let's see if it works. It's supposed to retrieve some plain text forecasts from the weather.gov API. Yeah, so that works. So this is an example using an API, using the HTTP caller to make HTTP requests. And we get back a bunch of information, a JSON body with a lot of attributes about a weather forecast. And so what we'll do is we'll work through this quickly, just as an example. How would I find a transformer that lets me remove all of these attributes I don't want and just keep this detailed forecast attribute? This is a text attribute of the weather forecast. And I just want to keep that. So you could use an attribute manager. We've seen that, right? I could just go in and select remove for all of those. It's not too bad. That would be pretty quick. But there are actually some transformers which work even better for this exact operation. So let's pretend we're in this situation. We're trying to find the right one. And let's use these tools to try to find it. Yeah, so JSON extractor we used to get one of the attributes out, but we still have all the other attributes from the previous transformers sticking around, and we'd like to get rid of those. These were all basically created through, these other transformers I was using. So what we'll do is I'll show you a few techniques to look for transformers. So one is Quick Add. So I can type in attribute, and I could, if I had a lot of patience, read through all of these and try to find the one that works. They do have a little blurb about the help text, or from the help text that describes what they do, so that's helpful. You can also click Browse FME Help, and you'll be able to see the help for that transformer. Another thing you can use with Quick Add is if you, clicked the wrong place. If you click this search icon, this magnifying glass icon, you can see there's actually two search modes in Quick Add. There's search by name and search help. Search by name is the default, and it's narrower because what you type in has to be in the name of the transformer or format. If you change to search help, you actually expand the search. This is going to be a very big one, searching for attribute as it appears in any of these help files for all of these transformers. So you can see this is a very broad search now. too broad to be helpful, but just to show you how that works, you can change the scope. And you can also do that actually just by hitting tab. So I'm hitting the tab key on my keyboard and changing the scope of that search. So if you're not seeing something that's in the actual name, you can always try to type in a few keywords and use the help search to try to find the transformer you're looking for. So I find that is pretty helpful. I often use Quick Add to find the transformers I want. It's just because it's right there. You can at least give it a couple tries, and then if you get stumped, you can go on somewhere else. You can also use the transformer gallery in Workbench over here. This has a similar function where you can search. It's going to default to searching the help text. You can see you have more results. You can also browse by category. So you might just look in the attributes category instead. I don't end up using this a lot though, because it's kind of similar to Quick Add. And if I'm going to use a transformer gallery, I actually prefer the one that's on our website. And the reason for that is it shows you a list of the transformers and you can sort it by rank, which is how often it's used by other FME users. So let me just take you to that. What's the address now? It is what did I do wrong? Oh, maybe this. Yeah, so this is, I can pop that in the chat as well. This is the transformer gallery on our website. And like I said, the reason that I like it is because it can be sorted by rank, and you can't do that in Workbench right now. So this is the main landing page is quite helpful because this is, the top, what is it, 20, I think? Yeah, top 20 transformers according to FME users. So like how often they appear in workspaces, because you can choose to opt in to send anonymous usage statistics. So these are the most used ones: Attribute Manager, Tester, all of those, some of which we've already seen. These are all very commonly used. So a great way to start is to just learn the top 20, because it's very likely you'll use all of these in your workflows. But if you also, we're like, okay, we're still thinking about attributes, maybe you could have a look and I see, yeah, the one we want is actually pretty close to the top there. So that's helpful. You can get a better sense of which ones are popular using the online transformer gallery. And then the final place you can look, I'll put the link in. I don't tend to use this a lot, but I hear from a lot of users that they enjoy using this, particularly when they're getting started with FME. And this is a transformer reference guide. It has a list of shortcuts at the top. And it then just lists all of the transformers. And for ones that are, particularly ones that are spatial, it'll include some of the example images from the docs to help you quickly understand what it does. And so I do find this can be pretty helpful to quickly have a look and see what did these different transformers do. So that might be something that's worth keeping open while you're learning FME. So using all those techniques, I could eventually find the transformer that's most useful in this scenario is the attribute keeper. So if I open that up, basically you get to pick from a list which attributes do you want to keep. And so this is great when you have a lot of attributes and you need to narrow it down to just a few. You can quickly remove all the other ones using the attribute keeper. The sort of sibling is the attribute remover, which again, you can do these with the attribute manager, but if you're just doing this and you just want to get rid of them or keep them, then these are helpful. Attribute remover is basically the flip of that, right? It's attributes to remove. So in this case, it doesn't work very well because I'd have to select all and then unselect detailed forecast. And that would be the same result. But it would be better if maybe, I would use this if I really was just like, okay, I want to remove these 3 automatically created ones and keep everything else. And that would just remove those 3. So those are helpful in that specific scenario. Again, you can do it with a manager, but Ryan and I always advocate for using the specific attribute transformers if you can, just because at a glance, it's more obvious what your workspace is doing. And so the attribute manager is helpful if you're going to do a lot of attribute transformations at once, whereas if you're just doing one, it's usually a good idea to just use the base transformer. So those are some resources. What I'll do now is give you a little challenge where you'll go back to the workspace that you're currently using, the original one we've been working on, and you have a challenge now, which is to ensure that the features, when they arrive at the writer feature types, are ordered alphabetically by the value of the last name attribute. So you have to find a transformer which will do that for you. You can use these resources to try to do that. So go ahead and try to find it and then configure it, and let us know in the chat when you find the right one. I'll give everybody about 5 to 10 minutes to do that. And again, it's about the process here as well. So even if you immediately find it, do try to use a few of these different techniques to look for transformers, because we want you to be aware of them. They can be very helpful when you are looking to learn the new transformers in FME. So go ahead and work on that exercise. Try to find a transformer to order your features by last name alphabetically. Okay, I'll jump back on for a little bit here before we take our break and just explain the outcome of that exercise. So see, quite a few were able to find the sorter. That is the correct one here, used to sort your features. Actually, let me open the one I had open earlier. This is my original workspace. Yeah, so once you know that you need to use a sorter, you have to decide where to put it. And there was a bit of discussion about that in the chat. Generally, we'd recommend putting it earlier in your workflow, because then the features will be sorted even if you split them later on, assuming that's what you want to do. And in this case, we do have 2 writer feature types. So just in case maybe business owners ever did receive attribute values, it probably would make sense to do it earlier. If you did it later, you'd probably have to use 2, which Peter was able to point out there, that you probably don't want to have to configure it twice. Easier to configure it once. So you could put it before attribute manager. Probably it makes most sense after, since you've kind of now decided what you want your attributes to be. And so we could add a sorter after that. Let me add one here. Good question. Why is it not called the attribute sorter? I guess because you might get confused with like it being an attribute name sorter, where you're like ordering your features attributes order rather than ordering features. But yeah, I agree, it is maybe a bit confusing it's called that. I suppose though, if you put in, so you put an attribute sorter like that, you don't get anything. If I hit tab, do I get it? I don't, do I? Huh. Which is kind of weird because it has sorts. Yeah, I get it here probably, but it's, oh, I don't even get it there. That's interesting. I don't know why that wouldn't show up there. It's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, I guess technically it would be more of a feature sorter, because it's sorting the order of features, not the order of attributes on features. Anyway, once I've found it, I can add it. Yeah, there is a spatial sorter as well, which can use Hilbert sorting. So add a sorter here. We'll sort by last name, alphabetical. And then I can run to that just to show you what the results are. But yeah, generally you're probably going to want to put it before the geometry filter, just so we know everything after that will be sorted. You will see the nulls are at the top. And if I scroll down, I'll see once they have values, these are in the correct order. So that is what the solution to that exercise is. Okay, let's go ahead and take our break. After the break, we'll cover filter data by attribute values, How are we doing for time? Pretty good. We're about halfway through today, and we've got one lesson left in this section of the course. So go ahead and take your 10-minute break. And when we get back, we will work on, I'll demonstrate the next exercise. So see you in about 10 minutes.